Hello everyone and welcome back to the Games Must Go On, the only series that refuses to die purely out of spite. Today I bring one shell of a challenge as I'm going to be trying to beat Bowser's Fury while always escorting a shell. The rules are simple. Whenever I collect a Catch Shine Shard, Blue Coin, or Gigabell, I must be holding a shell. There is one catch though, I'm only ever allowed to have one shell. If I ever lose it or break it, that's game over. Not just a restart from a checkpoint, I have to delete my save and restart the entire game. Other than that, the only things to note are that I am required to discard the shell by grabbing Gigabells, since we have to collect Gigabells to beat Bowser, and to make things more interesting, I'm only going to be allowing myself to grab Main Island Shines. But with that, it is now time to ask, can you beat Bowser's Fury while always escorting a shell? Our first attempt started pretty well. I grabbed the shell and immediately threw it. The shell hit the goop, shattered, and that was the end of attempt 1. Attempt 2 I decided to reset because Streamlabs wasn't recording, leading us into attempt 3. One immediate thing to know about holding the shell is that it limits our way of gaining height, as we lose access to backflips, side flips, and wall jumps. However, we can still get a good chunk of height by doing spin jumps. After defeating Shadow Luigi for a shine, I decided to jump down to the shore, and promptly lost my shell to a Goomba. While you may think a Koopa's shell would be durable, you would be sadly mistaken. Attempt 4 goes a little better, as after pulverizing Shadow Luigi with Bowser Jr., we can then use Jr. to collect the Catch Shine shards. The next shine is a key shine, which is basically free since we can just leave the shell at the cage and bring the key back normally. My next stop was Fort Flaptrap, and the first thing that caught my eyes were the Catch Shine shards. One that I especially wanted to get out of the way was inside the tiny passageway, but unfortunately I ended up getting stuck in the hole with the shell before kicking it out, losing it forever. After a little bit of testing, I found that the best way to get to the shard was to come into the hole at an angle and into the shard. I'd already failed the attempt, so I was still forced to start over, but at least I knew the shard was possible. Attempt 5 was lost to an accidental kick of a shell, but attempt 6 made it back to Flaptrap. Before getting the shards, because Bowser woke up, I decided to get my first Fury Block shine, which wasn't too bad as I left the shell out of harm's way for the most part. I say for the most part because the cats in this game absolutely love getting in your way, stopping your shell dash and preventing you from regaining your shell. As you can guess, they caused the end of attempt 6. Attempt 7 didn't go much better due to me stopping my shell dash at a bad time for the Flaptrap shard, causing me to kick my shell into oblivion. It was at this point that I decided to actually pull up Live Split and actually start timing my attempts. However, because up to this point I hadn't been keeping track of how many attempts I had done, I just decided to start the attempts counter in Live Split at 1. I think you get the point that I had to reset a lot in this challenge, so instead of just listing out every single attempt, from here on out I'll be explaining the run more fluidly. Besides the one problem shine shard, all of Fort Flaptrap's shines are pretty easy, as the bullies are easy with the titular Flaptraps, and the blue coins and Magic Goopas are easy to deal with Bowser Jr. Pounce Bounce Isle is also pretty easy, as the bounce pads are unaffected by carrying the shell, making it just an obstacle course where we have to dodge hitting the enemies with our additional shell hitbox. The second shine of Pounce Bounce is probably the toughest shine there, since you're supposed to do a quick platforming challenge, but even without being able to take advantage of a catsuit's wall climbing, it's still more than clearable. Even if this was too hard, you can just leave the shell at the end of a course after collecting the first shine and then pick it up after starting the timer challenge. After getting 13 shines on my second attempt, I decided to enter the first Bowser fight. Obviously, since we lose our shell when touching the Gigabell, we have nothing to worry about during the actual fight. While the Bowser fight is free, the reward we get for beating him is not so easy. For beating Bowser, we unlock the next set of 4 islands, which are across the lake, meaning they are separated by water. Now, water may not seem like an issue because the shell glides over the water when kicked or when you're controlling it, but if you ever try picking up the shell or exiting the shell while in the water, it gets immediately destroyed. While short gaps of water can be crossed by entering the shell, longer gaps will hit the shell's time limit, making you pop out of a shell, causing it to be destroyed. This doesn't mean the lake is impassable though, as there's two strats for going over large bodies of water. The first is Plessy Pinball, where you throw the shell where you want it to go and follow it with Plessy, stopping it on the island you targeted or redirecting it with Plessy if the shell is going off course. The main issue with this method of shell transport is Plessy's hitbox is extremely jank, which often leads to the shell going in the worst directions possible. The other way of shell transport is more skill-based and less luck-based. The reason we can't make it across large bodies of water normally is because the shell kicks us out after a period of time, and because the shell is in water it's destroyed, but no one said we had to stay in the water. If you jump and manually exit the shell, you can essentially drop it in the water, and from there you can jump out of the water and grab it and immediately re-enter the shell to essentially reset your shell's timer. The timing is a little tight because if you try to re-enter the shell too early, you'll ground pound and destroy the shell, but if you try too late, you'll fall in the water while holding the shell, which will also destroy it. After making it to the second archipelago, I started by getting the Fury blocks at Trickety Tower, followed by the shards. The rest of this island is unfortunately off limits, as while we could grab the first shine, doing so would leave us stranded in the middle of a tower, with the only way out being the pipe, which of course destroys our shell. While there might be a way to shell jump out of a pit, we aren't that desperate yet. In total we have to get 50 shines, and with 12 islands with 5 main shines each, we have 60 accessible total. Without the free at Trickety Tower, that drops our total to 57, but we should also factor in that we only got 1 shine on First Step Island, and we can only return in postgame, so we really only have 50 free accessible, meaning a free shine buffer. Next up is Clawswipe Coliseum. Obviously the fights here are a piece of cake, especially since we can use the shell as a damage source. The main issue is that after each fight, the arena gets taller, which should make platforming back up with the shell more challenging. I don't really know though, because you don't need to do extra platforming if you just leave the shell in the arena while you load the next fight. The shell doesn't despawn, and the stairs by the entrance to the fight never change, making it a safe place to leave the shell between fights. We do need to do some platforming after all the fights are over, as the shell is trapped in the arena and we have to platform it out. While you're supposed to use a catsuit to climb out, that obviously doesn't work with the shell, so instead I double bounced off of Bowser Jr.'s head to get maximum height to make it out. Without an easy way to slip skate slope since we can't enter clear pipe cannons and a fear of Chris Climb Castle's sheer verticality, I guess it's time for another Bowser fight. As you would expect, this was an easy fight, but we don't have any more islands yet. As such, let's talk about power-ups. In the game there are 7 power-ups, and to put them into a tier list, in B tier we have the Mushroom and Fire Flower, as the Mushroom allows us to take an extra hit, and the Fire Flower can help us get our shell out of the water if it's stuck close to shore. In A tier we have the Super Bell and Lucky Bell, as it acts as by far the best way to stop a runaway shell, making it a great choice for playing Plessy Pinball. If I were to choose between the two, I would honestly say that the Super Bell is slightly better because if you ground pound above your shell, you can dive out of a way with the Super Bell, but not while a statue with the Lucky Bell. In S tier, we have the Tanuki Suit, as it's the only power-up to have an effect that we can use while carrying the shell. It's pretty obvious why the Super Leaf is the best power-up. I would honestly say that there aren't any C tier or D tier power-ups, but there definitely are 2 in F tier. The first F tier power-up is the Superstar. If you find it in an invisible block, it can actually be a little useful, I guess. But if you get it randomly as a coin bonus while holding a shell, it will spawn in front of you, and when collected, it will kill your shell. This Russian roulette of a coin bonus makes collecting coins more of a hazard in this run than a benefit, hence why the star is F tier. The other F tier power-up is the Boomerang Flower. You may think that it would have the same benefits as the Fire Flower, with being able to knock a shell out of the water, but unless you are the perfect distance away, more often than not, the boomerang will behave like a boomerang, crazy I know, and it will come back to you, hitting the shell backwards. If this was the only problem with the Boomerang Flower, I would probably put it in C tier as it would just mean that it was basically useless. However, if the boomerang ever comes back to you while you're in the shell, you will immediately spin out, and if you're over water, you will destroy the shell. There is only one use for the Boomerang Flower in this run, that being that if you have any other power-up equipped when Bowser shows up, to use the Boomerang Flower so that if you get hit, you lose the Boomerang Suit instead of something with even the slightest bit of value. With how vital Tanuki Suits are to the run, I found 3 decent places to get them. The first is on Scamper Shores in this roulette block, while the island's progress is on the Shadow Luigi mission. If you don't get a Super Leaf, the block can be reset by heading to the mainland and coming right back. The second way to get them is by hitting this block at Fort Flaptrap while Fury Bowser is active. I would say that this is my preferred way to get Super Leaf since it's early in the run and no luck is involved. The last way is by finding this painting under the bridge at Trickety Tower. It's decently far into the run, but it's a nice backup to have. With a Super Leaf, we can actually make it up the Slipskate slopes. It isn't easy, especially with how Bowser Jr. controls, but we can get on top of the Fury blocks blocking a pipe cannon, jump off and then double bounce over to the base of Slipskate slopes. Once actually at Slipskate slopes, because we jumped up at the end of a slope, the first shine is ripe for the picking. For the second shine, instead of using the skate to collect the blue coins, we have to use the shell. This was actually a little tricky since the skate is faster than the shell and there's no limit on how long you can pilot the skate. Nevertheless, with a little help from Bowser Jr., this shine is still possible. The last shine is just an escort mission on getting the key up to the top of the slope. You can probably guess that the same path used for the key can also be used for the shell, so this shine is no problem. Did you know that shines can actually destroy shells? If you collect a shine while holding a shell, everything is fine, but if you're piloting the shell, it will be destroyed. This is what's known as a classic Nintendo troll moment. The silliness doesn't end there though, because another way to destroy the shell is by collecting a power-up. If you collect the power-up the same frame you enter a shell, the shell will be destroyed. One thing I haven't really mentioned yet is how problematic Bowser Jr. is. While he can be used for some extra height and platforming and collecting stuff that's far away, if he ever contacts the stationary shell, he will automatically kick it even when set to no help. This makes Bowser Jr. a constant threat in the run, and it always means that I have to keep an eye on him. I actually have enough shines by this point to do the third Bowser fight, which like the rest is absolutely free. Alright, enough stalling, it's time to go to Crystal Climb Castle. You know this one's gonna be fun because in order to even get to it, we have to get across the ice floe. Crystal Climb Castle is a vertical level entirely based around the propeller box, which we can't use while holding the shell. While nothing in this level is strictly impossible in this challenge, the majority of the jumps require us to double bounce off of Bowser Jr.'s head in order to get enough height. Before leaving the castle to reload the area to spawn a second shine, you need to leave the shell at the top of the shorter tower. This is because when you reload the area, some of the platforms will be missing, leaving no way to climb up the tower with the shell. By leaving the shell at the top of the tower, you can just activate the timer challenge and then retrieve the shell at the end. The last shine is from a Shadow Luigi at the base of the castle, so at least this shine isn't terrible. With Crisp Climb done, we can move on to the last archipelago. But first, in order to get to it, we either need to get Bowser to destroy some Fury blocks to open a shortcut, or we need to go around the long way with some Splounders and use perfect piloting to get a shell through. While I originally tried to go the long way, it takes so long that it's honestly just better to let Bowser wake up and make the shortcut for you. I decided it would be best to take out the side island of Roiling Roller Isle first since we'll have to do it anyway and it saves us a trip between the island and the main archipelago. Out of all the islands due to the instant kill lava, Roiling Roller is the second most dangerous, only behind Mount Magmeow, as flubbing a single jump often means the attempt is irrecoverable and the run needs to be completely restarted. While risky, the only huge threat on Roiling Roller Island is the first shine, as it has the most enemies and you have to platform all the way up to the top of the level. The second shine just requires that you leave the shell at the end of the timer challenge, and the third requires that you leave it at the base of the level while you get the key. After zooming across the water to the wasteland, we can get started on Risky Whisker Island, which while scary isn't too bad. The first shine is just a Fury Shadow, and the second lets us leave our shell at the beginning as we exterminate fuzzies with a Piranha Plant. The third shine is scary with all the enemies present, but as long as you don't lose your cool and move fast, nothing can hit you. Man, this video has taken a serious tone. After getting to Crisp Climb, I'd often consider those attempts as actual runs that show promise. As such, all the funny business goes out the window. Even if I have some time before Bowser shows up, I wouldn't take any risk and I would just store the shell somewhere and wait to not deal with them. But all this waiting has made this video bland, so how about another little joke? What kind of clear pipe can Mario go in? Well, not that one! Pipes are a bit silly. If I try to enter a green one while holding a shell, the shell is destroyed. If you try entering one while piloting a shell, it gets dropped. If you try entering a pipe cannon while holding a shell, it gets destroyed. And if you try entering one while in a shell, you just bounce off. If you try entering a clear pipe while holding a shell, the shell is destroyed. But if you try to enter one while piloting a shell, the clear pipe works as normal. These are the rules of pipes. However, for this one specific clear pipe, if you enter while in a shell, the shell gets destroyed on the other side. My personal guess on why the shell gets destroyed is because of the goop surrounding the island, and just janky hitboxes. As long as you don't go through this specific clear pipe, the rest of Pipe Path Tower is pretty free. The first shine just requires you to get to the top, the second are just some blue coins in the pipes, and the last shine is just a key shine, making it also free. The only island we have left is Mount Magmeow, and this one is tough. featuring tons of hazards and a long switchboard path that gives Bowser plenty of time to wake up. This level is so long that I recommend letting Bowser wake up in the middle of it so you can immediately put him back to sleep with just shards of a shine. After collecting all the Fury block shines in the archipelago, I hate to inform you that there are no more accessible shines. This is because the second and by proxy third shines at Magmeo are not accessible, due to needing to take a pipe cannon up. It's a good thing that we have 51 shines then. With only a single shine to spare, we can finally attack Bowser for the final 2 times, meaning we can beat Bowser's Fury while always escorting a shell. But how many times did it take? Well, in order to beat this challenge, it took me a total of 44 attempts, with my successful run being over 2 hours long. This challenge was pretty fun to complete, especially with the chat coming up with names and backstories for all the shells, so I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of your support. Also, I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to the channel members Harry Mario and Shellos to Shellos. But with that, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.